I played on the tennis team at Travis, but I lost in the state tournament to the boy who went on to win. I was so angry at myself and so young that I decided to just quit playing. To get some exercise, I started to lift weights with a high school friend who was the only guy at Travis who lifted. I weighed about 195 then, but as soon as I started to lift, I began to gain weight. By the time I entered UT, I was up to 220. Early that fall, I went into Gregory Gym one day to play a little pickup basketball, and I got open on a fast break. As I jumped to lay the ball in, I just kept going higher than the rim. And when I landed and ran back down the court, I thought to myself, my God, I weigh 30 pounds more than I did 3 months ago, but now I can jump higher. What's going on? When I told my weight training buddy what happened, he smiled and said that all the talk about weights making you muscle-bound was just bull hockey, or words to that effect. Anyway, my buddy told me that weight training not only made you bigger and stronger, it also made you better in sports. That was the secret. And it was a real epiphany for me, a real game changer. By that time I was missing tennis, so I went out for the tennis team. I kept on lifting as I played, and by the time I entered my junior year, I weighed 240, and there was only one UT football player who weighed more. Only one. Even so, at 240, I could jump even higher than I had as a 220-pound freshman. By then, I had also met a man who took me even further into the world of weights by lending me his books and his magazines in the field. That man was Professor Roy McLean, Coach Mack. Mack told me that after he enrolled at Texas in 1914, he was taught how to lift weights by UT's new athletic director, L. Theo Belmont, and by one of Belmont's close friends, Lutcher Stark, who was already a major force on the 40 acres. By then, both Belmont and Stark independently had learned about the benefits of weight training, and they trained regularly. In fact, Lutcher Stark got so strong that he sometimes entertained his brothers at the Fiji house by supporting on his chest a piano, and a piano player too. Mack had a world of stories about Stark and Belmont, because Belmont had hired him to be the recording secretary for any meetings that were about UT athletics. So Mack was right in the room when these two men shaped the athletic destiny of the university. Mack explained to me how truly important both men were to the university during the first half of the century, and particularly Lutcher Stark. Mack especially loved to tell how Stark would drive up to Austin from Orange and bring his weights in the trunk of his car, sometimes a Rolls Royce, so that Stark and Belmont and Mack too could take a workout. Mack also told me that Belmont and Stark convinced him to get a master's degree, to join the faculty, and to become the varsity coach for both the wrestling and the cross-country teams. I never got tired of those stories. They made Stark and Belmont larger than life to me. And the older I got, and the more I learned, the more I realized that those two men really were giants. In 1960, when I entered graduate school, Mack hired me as a teaching assistant. He told me he wanted to pass the torch to me that Stark and Belmont had passed to him. By that time, I'd read every one of Mack's books and magazines about weight training and sports. I have very little doubt that the support and encouragement Coach McLean got from Lutcher Stark and Theo Belmont led him to the long, wonderful career he had at UT. And I have even less doubt that the support Coach Mack gave me led to my own lifetime involvement as a competitive lifter, a student of strength training, and a collector of materials about physical culture. Nor do I doubt that as I helped my wife Jan explore her own physical strength, she gradually came to share my dream of one day establishing a research center at a major university where these issues could be studied. Today, she's the leading academic in the world of physical culture. So here we are, Jan and I, a century later, in a research center bearing Lutcher Stark's name in a stadium he had a lot to do with building. We've expanded the circle begun by Stark and Belmont and McLean, and we're trying our best to share what we know. May the circle grow. May it remain unbroken.